rocking the braids, setting the pace with the clock tick, talking away. There ain't no stopping the days and no walking away.
Morning, everyone. So welcome. I'm the Reverend Christine Dance, and I am honored to serve as the minister of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Phoenix. Welcome to UUCP's multi-platform worship service. You are seeing today the culmination of a lot of work and excitement as we take this next step into our safe and accessible worship. In this time when we are physically distant, we still believe it is an act of love, although we are creeping ever so slowly towards getting back together. Welcome to our worship. Welcome home. For those of you who are joining us for the very first time, a very special welcome to you. We are so glad that you are here. The Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Phoenix strives to be a spiritual community for our time, focused on diverse theological perspectives, radical inclusion, and knowing that issues of justice and equity shape everything that we do. With a special awareness for those who have been historically marginalized, we welcome all, of every race, class, ethnicity, immigration status, sexual orientation, gender identity, religious background, mental and physical ability and disability. We welcome your whole self, your family, however you define it, into our worship as we build a community of caring and courage and hope. We turn to our opening words by our worship leader, Elena Perez.
Prayer. Tiwa is the native language spoken in Pickery's Pueblo. I invite you to absorb the sounds and the power that they carry without the need to know their English meaning. Tokoa, tun nachalque, pancheke one. Natlataiha, chatui monochotan chikowen, antachon chike, anataiwe e. Mono chotan chi chatoi. Chenaho.
I love being blessed also with a rooster. Welcome. I invite you all to grab a chalice or a candle from your home as we recite our covenant, and our own Seisha Napa is here to light our chalice together. Love is the doctrine of this congregation, and the quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to share our strength in fellowship. Thus do we covenant. It is with great sadness this morning that I let you know of a death in our congregation. Gene Rowley died last Friday. Gene and his wife, Audrey Mawson, have lived at Friendship Village since 2012. Gene's doctors found a tumor in his back over a year ago, which ended up becoming cancerous. And Gene was active and going out to dinner right up until the week before he died. He was in their cottage with Audrey, taking care of him just before his death. Gene was active in the congregation in the 1990s in particular. They were very involved in the outdoor and hiking group and on the property team. Gene hosted many of the landscape cleanup parties that were also wonderful UUCP social events. We send Audrey and Gene's families and their community at UUCP, and especially our folks at Friendship Villages, our abundant condolences and love. On this weekend of Indigenous Peoples Day, our service highlights the voices of Indigenous folks. UUCP member Elena Perez is leading the service today from her family's home in the Pircaris Pueblo in New Mexico. If you have ever wanted to get to know Len better, and how could you not, you are going to love the service today. For almost 18 months, I have been broadcasting either alone in our home or here in the sanctuary on Sundays with my wife, Karen, just the two of us here. In all of that time, though I've had contact with you all through Zoom, there's almost never been anyone else physically in this space with me. Today is a step towards a future when we can regather together. Our music director, Benji Messer, and our pianist, Mary Coda, are here, and so is Seisha Napa, who is doing a reading. And in case you're worried, Karen is also still here with us. Benji and Mary are, all of us are here so we can practice streaming all of this from the sanctuary. Our hope is that soon COVID infections in Maricopa County will decrease enough that we can safely start inviting smaller groups of folks to attend service each Sunday. We sent a letter last week about our reopening guidelines, which are going to be driven by science and data. And please know that no matter how many people return back to the sanctuary, we will always be accessible online, always available to you from here on out. I want to give a special thank you because the live streaming from the sanctuary today is only possible because of UUCP members Dale Fisher and Bill Kessler. They, along with Becca Briley's help, have spent many hours researching, purchasing, setting up cameras and other video equipment in our sanctuary loft so we can stream this video. Thank you, Dale and Bill, for all of your hard work. We can do this because of you. We also have a new person in our sanctuary today, Danny Doyle. Danny was hired as our AV lead for the next few months as we grow into our new equipment. He comes to us with lots of experience and streaming live video, and we appreciate all of your patience as we continue to learn how to do this on a multi-platform way. There's Danny. Welcome, Danny. This morning, we are streaming to Zoom. I understand we're having some challenges streaming to YouTube and Facebook. Please know we're aware of that. We will continue to optimize it and for being patient with us. Our chat chaplain today, also taking on extra tech duties, is Carrie Lifshitz, and you can chat like you always have. I can see it right here on my computer. And you have opportunities to include captions for accessibility on Zoom. As always, we invite you to check into UUCP on social media with the hashtag UUAnywhere. There is a lot going on in our community, whether we are in person or not. It has never stopped. You can find it all in our newsletter, Compass. You can sign up for Compass at our website, phoenixuu.org. And immediately after service during coffee hour, we want to tell you about 3 things going on. One, you're going to be able to meet with our Share the Plate partner, which is called iHelp. You'll be hearing about them in a minute. And the very first of 4 gatherings of parents and caregivers as sexuality educators is immediately following the service in the coffee hour breakout room. We invite parents to embrace their role as role models for their young people that we parent, and as we explore our values and open ourselves to new ideas and ways to create positive and healthy sexual upbringings of our next generation. We're also going to have a breakout room with me where we're going to go further into those reopening guidelines, see if you have any questions, get your reactions. I'll be showing you the metrics that we'll be using and talk about it in general. If you are interested in becoming a member at UUCP, we have some great news for you. We have 2 membership gatherings coming up. We're calling them Starting Point. They're going to be available to you. Online only will be across 2 Saturdays, next Saturday, October 16th, and the following Saturday, the 23rd. And then we are hoping for an in-person option on Saturday, November 20th. Learn about both of them on our website or in Compass. And I want to remind you that Mary Coda has just one more week working at UUCP. Mary has been our congregation's pianist and our choir accompanist since 2014, way before she got married, had one kid, another kid, we got your PhD, all of that. After playing for congregations since she was 14 years old, she has decided to step down so she can attend church with her own family on Sundays and nurture her Episcopal roots. Her last service as our pianist will be next Sunday, and we're going to take some time then to appreciate her. We are so glad to support you, Mary, in your own spiritual growth, and we are beyond grateful that we have had so many years to get to know you, to hear you play, and to share yourself. There is a, don't tell Mary, although she's right there. There is a card that we're all signing. It's in the chat. Don't let her know about it. And over to you, Benji.
Okay. Oh, this is so strange. I have to tell you all. It is so strange. But it does feel like a step in the direction of having you back, to be here in the sanctuary and have all of this empty space in front of me, where maybe at some point soon, those of you watching will be. So to celebrate this potential return to our sanctuary, let's sing Return Again. This is a hymn by a kind of a radical Orthodox rabbi about returning to the home of your soul. I know some of you feel that way about this place. Here we go. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Thanks all.
So cool. I know this looks kind of the same to you all, but I get to sing with you right there. It's so amazing. So as we are beginning this gradual transition to welcoming you back in person, we want to recognize the people who worked behind the scenes during the last 18 months. We are grateful to our chat chaplains and our worship associates and the staff who worked with them, but right now we want to specifically, particularly highlight and thank members who actually operated our Zoom in the services, who will no longer be needing to do that job now. Carol Benwell, Glenn Lockwood, Justin Walgren, and Bonnie White. I got to meet with them last week to talk about what it was like to do this job, and we recorded part of that conversation and our gratitude for you all so that you can more fully appreciate them. Please feel free to share your gratitude in the chat. So I just wanted to say thank you to you all. This is the week that we move into recording from live streaming in the sanctuary, and we want to use this opportunity to say thank you to all of you who have been our AV tech leads through this whole pandemic, all 18 months of it.
At the beginning, we definitely struggled to quickly figure out a solution to the virtual and remote world that we were thrust into. We quickly looked at Zoom and some other platforms, but we were trying to be on YouTube and Facebook and other things and use some of the equipment and knowledge that we had prior. But it was certainly a challenge with many hours of trial and error, many meetings, many run-throughs, a couple of missed starts, but luckily we got through all that. I especially really appreciate the time given by Stephanie Bridell Vigil, Dale Fisher, Bill Kessler, and of course Benji Messer, who wore the captain's hat for several months, and we got it done. It was exciting.
We sure did. And then we've woven Becca Briley into that. And now Benji is working on it again. And we have a brand new person helping us as a contractor named Danny Doyle. And so it has totally taken a village.
I could mention that it's a unique kind of performance, that it was a collaborative group effort toward there'd be a different team of people each Sunday, and we would be in rehearsal at the beginning and figure out how it was going to go. And then during the performance, there would be changes, and we would be chatting back and forth in the background, trying to make things happen and correct issues. And having done various kinds of performances throughout my life, this was a wholly new one. And it was very exciting to watch it get better and better as we learned how to hit our marks. It was very rewarding, and it was great to be able to give back to the congregation in such a meaningful way in this really rough time.
Your use of the word performance, the thing that I resonate with most closely, I think, is the fact that it was worship, and it felt like worship getting ready for it. I love that aspect of getting to, modify some of the videos, put them together, hear things, make sure things were falling in the right place. And we had some interesting mistakes, and it went right back to, I think, Christine's first sermon, maybe a candidating sermon about humaning together. This was a humaning experience. And I am incredibly grateful.
By the time I joined, everybody seemed to have arrived at the point of perfection. At least that's what it felt like to me. And fortunately, Glenn really helped me hold my virtual hand to get me prepared for it. Stephanie was amazing in teaching me. But there's still, once you start into the performance and things happen that you didn't expect to happen, and now you're trying to catch up, and the whole thing is still going forward, and you've got to be ready to catch it and take it to the next thing. Glenn, yeah, the heart rate was definitely, and it was good that I was muted, because there were probably a few things that were said that just didn't need to go out over the air. It was a pretty thrilling experience the first 2 or 3 times.
Well, I just want to say on behalf of the worship team, it was so great having you all. And it was this sense of being held, that we knew that we could do the best possible worship that we could because you had our backs. And I can't tell you how special that felt for all of us, because we were all doing something that we had never done before. So I want to say thank you so very much. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for giving your best. Thank you for humaning all the way through it and watching us human together. And really, I just want you all to know how important it was, you know, as volunteers, for you to step up and say, we've got you, and to hold this space technologically. It was huge, and we will forever be changed because of what you did. And just thank you very much. Yay. Thank you, team. Thank you. We turn now to the offering. One Sunday each month, we collect an offering for a community organization. Today's Share the Plate recipient is the Interfaith Homeless Emergency Lodging Program, otherwise known as iHelp. iHelp provides case management and partners with churches and community groups to shelter 30 to 40 people experiencing homelessness every night in Mesa, Surprise, Avondale, Goodyear, and soon to be Glendale. In fact, our neighbors at Valley UU and Chandler have long been connected to iHelp and have helped provide shelter in their sanctuary. Our offering collected today will support iHelp participants in a range of ways, including providing hygiene products, uniforms for new jobs, transportation, and financial support towards new apartments. We ask you to be generous. You are not here in this space yet, so we're counting on you to donate online. You can text UUCP to 73256. You can donate through the website, or you can send a check, and please donate Share the Plate in the memo. We are grateful to have Hannah Miller from Lutheran Social Services, a coordinating organization for iHelp, attending our worship today online. She will also be in a special breakout following the service and coffee hour, where you can talk to her about, to learn more about iHelp. Also, if you know an organization you'd like to be considered as a future Share the Plate recipient, please contact sharetheplate@phoenixuu.org. We invite you to donate while Mary plays for the offering. We'll have information there. And this piece that she's playing and the piece that she is playing later in the service are both from composer Connor Chi, who is a Navajo pianist living in the Phoenix area. Both of these pieces are based on traditional Navajo stories. For all that you give our congregation, we are so grateful. Thank you, Mary. For our Together time this morning, we are honored to have Kia Bordner, an Indigenous Unitarian Universalist from the San Diego area. We welcome Kia and son Ryle for our Together time this morning.
Nakute nakute takaman. Long, long ago, and therefore it is so. There were two cousins who had never met, but they knew that that didn't mean they weren't family. Those cousins are Kia, whose grandfather was from the Isleta del Sur Pueblo, and Len, whose family lives in Picuri Pueblo. These two cousins heard the call of their other families who they had not yet met, of their other great-grandparents, of their other aunties and uncles, of their other nibblings and other cousins. This call was an echo of the call of the winds, of the rice, of the earth. All were echoes of the great cry of the waters. A giant black snake is burrowing itself under the white earth land, under the great waters. This black snake is being helped by those who choose not to hear the cries of the peoples, the cries of the winds, the cries of the rice, the cries of the earth, the cries of the waters. It is time for water protectors and treaty people to join together to stop the black snake. Many people of many nations planned to come together at White Earth to do what they could to stop the black snake from growing. Kia packed up her drum, her medicine, and her camping gear and rode the iron horse from Kumeyaay lands along the west coast. She traveled for many days through many lands of many nations, telling stories and preparing herself to take action. In the desert near the lands of their grandparents, Kia and Len met. The next morning, as they loaded up Len's trusty Virgil, they were greeted and blessed by the first of many animal relations they would encounter along their journey. First, the roadrunner gifted them with a speedy journey, and then a family of deer granted them safe passage. The two cousins traveled from the desert, over the mountains, through the plains, across the fields. Their trip was filled with music and stories and much, much laughter. The day before they arrived at White Earth, the two cousins filled Virgil with even more supplies for the people they were going to join. They bought a utility cart and chairs, water coolers, lanterns and candles, food and water, and so many other supplies. When they arrived late at night at White Earth, they were greeted by fireflies and songs, laughter, and much joy from those gathered together as water protectors and treaty people. Len and Kia set up their tents along a ridge near the water and slept under the sky. With the rising of the sun the next day was a great gathering of dragonflies filling the skies and fields. They met a large happy hog, and many of their cousins and other friends arrived. This day was a day filled with training, for it is very important to train for many, many things. Especially important when you are not in your own lands, when you do not know all that you need to know to be safe. These trainings were about listening to the people whose lands the black snake was invading, These trainings were about understanding the treaties and why people were gathered to defend the treaties and to demand that they be upheld. The trainings were about how to be safe. In whatever way a person was going to take action the next day, they needed to know how to be safe. There were people doing many different things. There were people driving. There were people responsible for food. There were people responsible for safety. People responsible for supporting the people who were fighting the black snake. There were people protecting the water, the earth, protecting each other. That last night, there was much singing around the campfire. Kia had brought medicine from her brother Ramon, who is from the Kumeyaay and Kickapoo nations, and she walked the campground with the medicine and shared with all who were present. And then she took her drum to the fire circle and she sang with other cousins that she had only met that night. Early with the sun the next day, the cousins and their other relations rose to join the family who had sent out the call. They sang songs and they prayed together in the car that was taking them to the place where the black snake was trying to force its way into the earth under the waters. When they arrived at this place, there were swallows flitting about, darting into their nests in the cliffs, which had once, not too long before then, been undisturbed by the humans. It was going to be a long, hot day. Community was formed, and those relations who had not known each other when the sun had risen were a close-knit family long before the sun began to leave the sky. Kia had packed in food and medicine. Len had packed in lots of extra water. The day was very long, and much happened as the two cousins and all the relations present did their best to stop the black snake from gaining any ground. Reporters spoke to them, and photographers took their pictures. The two cousins and all their relations present held their ground. Armed forces arrived to remove the water protectors and treaty people. Len and Kia and the family members who they sat with began singing, and they sang, and they sang, and they sang. When I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. As Len and Kia and the relations that were singing with them were removed by the armed forces, a cousin crane flew overhead and blessed the work of the water protectors and the treaty people. Many relations stayed through the night. Many other relations set up other camps along the waterways. Many other relations sang. Others held ceremony. Much more happened. Much more is still happening. The two cousins, Len and Kia, were released from jail a few days later and began their journeys home. They ate many good meals, had many good laughs, and are still fighting the black snake. Every one of every nation is a relation. We are all a family of people. We must all join together to protect the waters, to protect the earth. There are so many ways anyone can be involved in answering this sacred call. Just a few ideas. Donate. Most of the water protectors and treaty people who have been fighting the black snake of Line 3 are still in the long, detailed legal process of the American court systems. None of us are paid protesters, and many of us are facing severe punitive consequences. Educate yourselves about the treaties. contact your state and national legislators. The president has the power to defeat the black snake and stop Line 3. Divest from corporations and organizations who fund pipelines and the use of armed forces against peaceful protesters. Stories are medicine to help us heal the world. They share truths, honor ancestors, and shape the future. Stories are magic, transforming both teller and listener. Stories are created to answer questions and should in themselves create new questions. I offer this story, my story, as medicine for your hearts. It is your story now.
Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, when I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, when I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, when I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, when I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, when I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out.
Ninga ishechike nebe onje. Ninga ishechike nebe onje.
This is the same water that was here when dinosaurs were here. There is no new water. This is the only water we will ever know. This is the same water that my great ancestors drank from and harvested our wild rice upon.
On this land where we belong, surrounded by the northern lights. On this land where we belong, beneath the starlit night.
On this land where we belong, wild Monoman grows. Our blood runs right through the watershed of Nimamaki.
On this land where we belong, rivers, lakes, and streams flow through the heartland of the sacred Mississippi.
This water is sacred. Water is sacred because without water there is no life. You cannot drink oil.
On this land to which we belong, from the Canadian tar sand, 1 million barrels of oil a day to come through these sacred lands. On this land to which we belong, with oil thicker than crude, 4,000 workers coming our way, got them pandemic pipeline
that moment where we face that oil. This is the moment where we face line 3 and say, no, you will not take our water.
On this land to which we belong, with pipelines that corrode. When they break, it'll be too late. It'll kill this river road. On this land where we belong, don't let that pipeline through. No more drill pads on native land. No more pipeline blues. No more drill pads on public land. No more pipeline blues. No more drill pads on sacred land. No more pipeline blues. No more. Don't let line 3 come through.
You are a story fed by generations. You carry songs of grief, triumph, thankfulness, and joy. Feel their power as they ascend within you. As you walk, run swiftly, even fly into infinite possibility. Let go that which burdens you. Let go any acts of unkindness or brutality. Let go that which has burdened your family, your community, your nation, or disturbed your soul. Let go one breath into another. Pray thankfulness for this earth we are, for this becoming we are, for this sunlight touching skin we are, for the cooling waters we are. Listen now as earth sheds her skin. Listen as the generations move one against the other to make power. We are bringing in a new story. We will be accompanied by ancient and new songs, and will celebrate together.
Nipe, kisake iku, kimi kwachawenemiku, kishawenemiku. Nipe, kisake iku, kimi kwachawenemiku, kishawenemiku.
Yeah, look at all those artists. All right. We're still figuring all this out because I'm looking at all the credits and seeing what's going on, just like you all are. It is time to share the joys and sorrows of our community. It is good to share what is going on, to support and connect with each other. If you want to share your joys and sorrows in the chat, please feel free. I can still see them here. Please put your name at the front. And as always, if you wish it not to be spoken out loud, you can put the word private in front. While you are entering your joys and sorrows, let me mention a few in our world. We know that today is the day before Indigenous Peoples Day, and we acknowledge the pride of our Indigenous siblings. We also acknowledge the hurt, the harm, and the injustices. In our remembering, we commit ourselves to learn, to honor, and to work on behalf of all of our Native siblings for awareness and justice. Today is also National Coming Out Day. For those in our community who have come out as queer, transgender, non-binary, lesbian, gay, bisexual, asexual, pansexual, or intersex, we celebrate you, your authenticity, and your courage. For those who have not come out yet because they are still figuring things out, or because it is not safe to do so in their family, in their work, or in their church, we honor you And we commit ourselves to building a community where each person will be safe, celebrated, and can feel 100% whole as they are. Somewhat related to Coming Out Day, I am starting a conversation group for family members who have loved ones who are coming out as transgender or non-binary, where we can share learning, practice, using pronouns, and sharing our experiences. If you are in a similar situation with a family member and would find this helpful, please reach out to me. So let us turn now to the joys and sorrows of our community. Our first one is from Walt Weeder, who said that wife Janet is recovering from an accident on Tuesday. We know that that was very scary. Walt and Janet, sending you much of our love. Sam and Michelle are so joy-filled to be sharing a wonderful weekend with our daughters, Shannon and Daryl. How wonderful. Laurel Hardin says, I'm delighted to share that my sister, who had 2 surgeries for bladder cancer, will finally be going home next week as a care team has been formed where she lives. Terrific. And that's all I'm seeing. There we go. Katie says, happy coming out day and 13th wedding anniversary, and to me and my awesome water protector wife. How wonderful. And Jira says, we went camping at Oak Flat to bring donations and support the Apache Tribes convoy to the 9th Circuit Court to protect sacred sites. What a joy. Thank you, Jira, for that work. We'll see if there's anything else. I invite you all into a time of meditation and prayer. I invite you to center yourselves, to find what is grounding for you, to reconnect with your body, to take some deep breaths. Wherever you are in your home, take a moment to just stop and breathe. Spirit of life, spirit of love, great mother in nature, great parent of love, we call on you this day to be with us as we continue to be in liminal space between the times of being together, being separate, and being together again. We ask you to be with our Indigenous siblings as they continue to fight for their lives, their families, their well-being, and their rights. And we ask that you be with all non-Indigenous folks and encourage and provide all of the incentives and motivation to learn more, to recommit ourselves more. Be with all of our queer community, recognizing the very, very wide range of experiences, from those who have been celebrating Pride this weekend across the country, to those who are too afraid to come out to their families. May we honor the power of being authentically who we each are and we're divinely inspired to be. Please be with all of those who are hurting, who are struggling, who are challenged, who are grieving. Be with them, and may the power of community and love wash over them. We pray this with humility and with a sense of enduring community. Amen. Blessed be, and Ashe. Join me in a moment of silence.
Good morning. My name is Seisha Napa. I'm a member of the Navajo Nation, and this morning I'm reading from the collection Blue Horses Rush In by Lucy Tapahanso. Lucy Tapahanso is a Navajo poet and the very first Navajo Nation Poet Laureate. This is called A Birthday Poem. This morning, the sunrise is a brilliant song cradling tiny birds and brittle leaves. The world responds, stretching, humming. The sunlight is Diyin, sacred beams as the holy ones arrive with prayers. They bring gifts in the cold dawn. Again, as a Diné woman, I face east on the porch and pray for Hojo one more time. For today, allow me to share Hojo, the beauty of all things being right and proper as in songs the holy ones gave us. They created the world, instilling stories and lessons so we would know Diyin surrounds us. Our lives were set by a precise prayers and stories to ensure balance. Grant me the humor Diné elders relish so. No matter what, let the Diné love of jokes, stories, and laughter create some hojon. Some days, even after great coffee, I need to hear a song to reassure me that the distance from Dinetah is not a world away. I know the soft hills, plains, and wind are Digne also. I plan the next trip when we all say prayers and the dim driveway. As we drive, Kansas darkens. Prayers and memories protect us. In the tradition of Diné travel, we laugh, eat, refuel, sing. Twice in Texas, Honjo rose in clear air above the flatness. The full moon was a song we watched all night. We marveled at how quietly the world is blessed. After midnight, Lori asks about the Diyin Dine'e who danced the nightway ceremony. The sacred Diyin Dine'e come after the first frost glistens. Their prayers and long rhythmic songs help us live. This is a Diné way of communication and cleansing. At the nightway, Honjon awaits as we come to listen and absorb the songs until they live within. It is true that the world is restored by the holy ones who return to the fourth world to take part in the nightway. They want to know that Diyin still exists amongst their children. Their stories and prayers guide us now. At times, the holy ones feared that Diné would succumb to foreign ways. For them, it is truly Honjo to see us at the nightway, gathered in the smoky cold. Songs rise with the fire smoke. I tell Lori we Diné are made of prayers. At times, the world may overwhelm us, yet because of the Diyin, each morning we pray to restore Honjo, 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 Honjo.
you don't feel like you know me that well, I think I have a solution. I'm going to tell you about two of my scars. The first one is this one on the back of my leg that I got when I was hiking to a fishing spot in the river with my dad. And I had a run-in with some barbed wire. I'll show you this one on my arm, where I was bit by my neighbor's dog this summer. Cool. When we finally meet again in person, you can show me some of yours if you want. Okay. I'm going to take this nice and slow, like I'm on NPR. And I know for certain that no one will interrupt me. As a Native woman, being alive is an act of resistance. My life is an act of resistance. I've been fighting for my survival since I was in utero, and the copper IUD that was supposed to prevent me from being failed. Preaching this sermon today is an act of resistance. So I'd like to thank Rev. Christine for the opportunity to share a bit of myself with you today. A lot of you know me, and some of you don't. I assume most of you like me, but I'm sure some of you don't. Be that as it may, I have the pulpit today because the congregation decided that today should be the day a Native American, Aboriginal, Indigenous, Indian gets to hold court. So here I am, with the weight of countless generations on my back and by my side. The weight that folks carry if they know their importance to their community, to those who understand the responsibility of representing something larger than yourself. But here's the thing. I struggled with what to talk about today because there are so many things Native people face. I wasn't sure what to focus on. I'm not an expert and could not do justice to most issues facing Indian country today. Most of all, my expertise is experiential. So what does that mean? I don't want to gloss over anything that deserves to be lifted, but I'm also not here to educate all of you on the details of the plethora of Indigenous hardships. So I'm going to read a short list. I call it my stoic list of crap. It consists of issues and struggles affecting Indian country, all sad, all depressing, all things that add weight to the daily lives of Indigenous people, and all very, very easy to Google. Missing and murdered Indigenous women. Violence against women. Native American boarding schools. Indian mascots. Cultural exploitation. Lack of health equity. Food sovereignty. Food scarcity. Voting rights violations. Exploitation of natural resources. Water rights. Cultural erasure. Housing inequality. Poverty and unemployment. And suicide. I will not put this list in the chat. If you need it, you can rewatch the sermon online. So here we go. Tokoa heokona poihu nahatai ha pam chekeone. Hi everybody. My name is Elena Perez. Most of you know me as Len. I live in northern New Mexico in the Pueblo of Picaris, a reservation that is also the ancestral home of my family on my father's mother's side. My roots here are deep, like pre-colonial Spanish deep, or like older than Jesus deep. But I look white, and I look white for the same reason I'm predisposed to diabetes. Genetics. My mother is white, or as someone once described her, Euro-ethnic. That's a nice way to say she's a mutt. Irish, Scottish, English, Danish. She was raised Irish Catholic, one of 11, born in Rochester, New York. My dad, on the other hand, is an FBI, or full-blooded Indian. His father was from Cochiti Pueblo. His mother, a boarding school survivor from the Santa Fe Indian School, was from Picaris. Why am I telling you all of this? I think it's a way to heal my little biracial heart a bit. My parents have been married for 50 plus years. They met at my Uncle James's baseball game down in Cochiti Pueblo. They fell in love instantly, have been together ever since. But I struggled a lot being light-skinned. I didn't know it was really a thing until I went to the Santa Fe Indian School. Yes, that same Indian school my grandmother was forced to attend. They had since been revamped and was now run by the Pueblos of New Mexico, so no abuse, no assimilation, and no trauma, other than normal teenage angst. Anyway, that was the first place I truly understood what it meant to identify as a Pueblo. To attend the school, you have to be part of a federally recognized tribe, and because the location of the school was majority Pueblo, with a few Navajos sprinkled in. I was a city Indian who only visited the res on major holidays and to go fishing. So what did I know about res life? Nothing. I only knew what I heard, and most of it was negative. There's nothing to do. There's problems with drugs and alcohol. Res kids are rough. In some ways, they were right. Res kids are rough. But they're also kind, thoughtful, funny, smart, creative individuals. You know, people who have a wealth of knowledge from their cultural upbringing. And that is something I didn't have. I didn't know res life. I didn't know Pueblo life. I didn't know what it meant to have grandmas and aunties who would only talk to you in Indian. I didn't know what it was like to live within my community. And I didn't know what it was like to have an uncle that was 10 years younger than me. I tried my best to integrate, though, participating in traditional dances and language classes. I would stay at my friends' houses and hang out with their grandmas. I began to feel connected in a way I never had before. There was so much more to this identity now. So much that I just didn't have exposure to yet. But I became comfortable, content, and happy with where I was. It would be enough to carry me through the next decade. Now we're going to fast forward here just a little bit. Past my super student days as senior class president, salutatorian, and athlete of the year. We're going to pass by my days as a manic, depressive, alcoholic Ivy Leaguer, which was quickly followed by my diagnosis of anxiety and depression. We're going to skate past me moving to Arizona, which was a very big deal. Pueblos hardly ever leave New Mexico. Somewhere in there I got married, I graduated from college, and bought a house. So we're going to land somewhere around 10 years ago in Phoenix, where I can talk about being completely disconnected from my native identity and spiritual life. I can talk about finding a spiritual home at UUCP and feeling the call towards action as a water protector. How that tied me to the larger Indigenous community and reminded me what my soul was missing, which was connection to home. Now, I love Phoenix. I love my house in Phoenix. I love my community in Phoenix. But I never quite feel whole. I started visiting home in New Mexico for my mental stability about 10 years ago. If I went any significant length of time without seeing my folks and my family, I would start to lose my sense of self. It was not good. I didn't have any native friends here, which was a real problem. But I powered through, not the best option, and life kept happening. We fostered then adopted children. My mother-in-law came to live with us. We started attending UUCP. UUCP became a place of refuge. There were at least 2 Indians there, right? Maybe more. This could work, I thought. We dove in head first into church life. Rev Susan became my hero, and Katie became the director of children's ministries. Then our community started solidifying. Our acquaintances became friends, our friends became family, and I came one step closer to feeling whole. Then came the call. Standing Rock started gaining traction in the media. There was a call for water protectors to gather in North Dakota to help stop the Dakota Access Pipeline. I felt a pull from deep in my belly, like this is something I had to do. With the support of my wife and the help of UUCP, I packed up Emers's old Subaru, grabbed a navigator and travel companion, my dog Ruby, and headed north with no real understanding of where I was going, just that I had to be there. We meandered our way north. Nico Case sang us through the fields. We got to the casino near the encampment on a windy, cold October night. I needed sleep before I drove any farther, and I didn't want to roll into camp at 2 in the morning. The next morning, we woke up to a different world than we started in. I used the casino facilities, walked Ruby a bit, ate breakfast from our cooler, then strapped in to find our final destination. Standing Rock was magic. It was all the things rolled into one. It was an indigenous community. It was a spiritual home. It was a place of active resistance and a place of survival. The road into camp was lined with signs of solidarity flags and many, many nations that were being represented. I loved being there. It fed a place in myself that I had been neglecting. My need to be among other indigenous people. It fed my call to resistance, and I could resist by just existing in that space. My presence was powerful and feared. It was wonderful. Standing Rock renewed my sense of self. I lost my flashlight, I lost the Subaru, and I lost my deep-rooted fear that I wasn't indigenous enough. When my time there was done, I came back to Phoenix a renewed person, having a deeper understanding of what fed me. The trick was, what did I do with this new information? So the buzz from Standing Rock would carry me for years, giving me the courage to participate in community gatherings as an indigenous person, a space where I previously was not comfortable. It helped me reconnect with cousins and friends from back home. It renewed my spirit of active resistance and boosted my participation in social justice movements in Phoenix. I was finally starting to feel like me. So we're going to fast forward again, past the time when Rev Susan left and our lives changed. Suddenly the church didn't seem so welcoming a place. The stability we'd had in our community and our livelihood was starting to slip away. It was a hard time for us to function. We were stressed and worn thin. And our community was still there and still fighting, but it was harder to find time to be in that sacred communal space. Then came Rev Christine, thank the goddesses, and it seemed like our minds could rest a little easier, or so we thought. The pandemic was coming. It was on the other side of the world, but we knew it would get here soon enough. We made the incredibly hard decision to leave Phoenix, a densely populated, soon-to-be dangerous area, and headed for the mountains to my family's house on the reservation. A community with a population of 154. A community that understood the potentially devastating effect of a pandemic. One wave of coronavirus could knock out our entire tribe. It could mean the end of generations, loss of cultural knowledge, loss of traditional language, loss of everything sacred. We felt safe there in a very controlled environment where most everyone took COVID as seriously as we did. It took a lot of adjusting to res life. Like I was warned, there was nothing to do. Especially with the pandemic, all regular traditional doings were canceled. So homesteading was all we did. Thankfully, Katie was able to continue working remotely, but that was tricky at first, since we had no internet yet, and the closest internet was at my uncle's house, my same Uncle James, that had no running water. We managed, though, and finally got things squared away. Internet on the res is a trip. It's something I never really thought I would see. It was amazing enough when Pickeries finally was able to get cell service. It's still spotty as hell, but it's pretty good. Better than nothing. So living in the Pueblo was a dream I thought would never come to fruition. I could have never guessed that these would be the circumstances, but here I am. And suddenly, I had got that old familiar feeling of not being enough. My neighbors live here full time. They speak the language. Well, some of them do. They participate in the traditions. Most of them do. And they all knew each other. But did they know me? Did I know them? Did they at least know my father? It took some time, but eventually I understood that, yes, they did know me. Those who didn't know me knew at least one of my parents. It wasn't a question to anyone whether or not I belonged here. Of course I did. I was reminded of a dream I had when I was a teen. My great-aunt Frances had passed away, and that night she came to me and told me that I would always be Pickeries in my heart. And her daughter Kay, my next-door neighbor, reiterated that sentiment. She told me, "Of course you belong here. You're Pickeries. Anyone who tells you differently, just ignore them. We know the truth." I knew the truth, but I had a lot of trouble believing it. But that would change over time. And who knew I would have plenty of time. I heard the call to Minnesota to stop Line 3, first from Katie, then from Janine, the executive director of UU Jazz. I had been invited to help stop Line 3, an invitation I somewhat reluctantly accepted. But once I did, all the pieces started falling into place. There was no question that this was what I was supposed to be doing right now, at this moment. I packed up Virgil and headed north to meet Kia, my new cousin and travel companion, which you all heard from for Together Time, so I won't go into that. Which brings us to today. I've now lived on the res for 18 months. I have a job with the tribe. I help run and participate in language classes. I have a res dog, which is a social creature with no fence line or sense of decorum that likes to lay on, pee on, and chase cars. And I have a res car, Virgil, who you met earlier. Well, a van, actually. She hasn't been washed in 18 months because there's no point. She gets dusty on all the dirt roads. Her shocks are blown. She's got a giant crack across the windshield. She has the goo of old bumper stickers all over her rear. People can hear her coming a mile away because the splash shield underneath is dragging. But she's a good pony. She can fit 12 Indians easily and 90 loaves of oven bread. Her engine is still good, and she still starts every time. And she still gets me around. In this pandemic now, I feel more connected to Pickeries than I ever have before. This is my spiritual home. These are the people that will take care of me when I die. My final resting place is here. But, like Cornel West says, it's from the womb to the tomb. The question is, what are you going to do in the meantime? So, what am I going to do in the meantime? I have to figure that out. I'm tasked with balancing two worlds, my home here and my home in Phoenix. I love you all so much, it's hard to know where to keep all the parts of myself whole. Does that make sense? The truth is, there is no easy solution. I can't be in two places at once, and neither place will make me feel whole on its own. And that's where I have to leave it. So that's a little bit of my story. Thank you for staying with me. You've earned your Indian badge for the day. If you want extra credit, you can use your Google machine to look up any of the previously mentioned issues. If that's too depressing, you may also earn credit by watching Reservation Dogs on FX Hulu, or Rutherford Falls on Peacock. You can go to the Heard Museum. You can read the book 1491. You can figure out where our sermon title came from today. You can Venmo an Indigenous friend some coffee money. Or you can buy art from Native artists. And lastly, you can talk to a real live Indian. Just to talk, not to learn. I suggest you stay away from the guy at the bus stop whose girlfriend left him in Phoenix and now needs a ride back to AJ or something. You'd be surprised how many times I've heard that story. Many blessings to you all. Chenaho.
I've been driving in my Indian car with the pound of the wheels drumming in my brain. My dash is dusty, my plates are expired. Please, Mr. Officer, let me explain. I got to make it to a powwow tonight. I'll be singing 49 down by the riverside, looking for sugar, riding in my Indian car. Got my T-bird in the glove box, I ain't got no spare. Got a feather from an eagle, I ain't got no care. The road is empty in my bottle of desire. Daylight is breaking, the sun touches fire. I got to make another powwow tonight. I'll be singing 49 down by the riverside, looking for sugar, riding in my Indian car.
Wow, I hope you all are as filled as I am. Before closing words, we'd like to invite you to coffee hour after the service. There is a link in the chat. Visitors, we hope that you will join us. You see how special this community is. And a very, very special thank you to Elena Perez, Seisha Napa, and Kia Bordner for this amazing service this morning. And we turn to Len for our final words.
To close our service today, I offer these words. Please take time to learn something new about your surrounding Indigenous communities. Acknowledge the space that you occupy and take initiative in protecting your oldest neighbors. Chenaho, thank you, and happy Indigenous Peoples Day.
On my wings and I cried. I am rich in pride and pain and foolish, fearful things. The heron came knocking at my door, inviting me to dance. The heron peered into my heart and offered one more chance. She cried, why refuse the gift I carry on my wings? And I cried, I am rich in pride and pain and foolish, fearful things. The heron glided from my door, left me sad and hollow. The silent heron disappeared, and I began to follow. She cried, why do you desire my gift? Your nest is choked with things. And I cried, yearn to touch the sky, must trade the world for wings. She smiled. She smiled. Yeah, she smiled.